Let's get Jamie Eisenberg in here. Jamie, all the fantasy guys love Clyde Edwards-Helaire to begin with. I imagine this makes him even more attractive going into the season.
I'm going to have to censor myself, Chris, because the expletives that could be used in terms of excitement for Clyde Edwards-Helaire are just through the roof. He's got the world of potential. You know, he was somebody that with Williams on the roster that we were drafting initially in round 1 to begin with. You know, first 15 overall picks for sure once the NFL draft happened. I dialed back my expectations for Edwards-Helaire because of the lack of offseason work and no preseason games, and the fact that Damien Williams, like you said, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, should have been the Super Bowl MVP. He's a very capable running back. Now, I think Pete is right. They have other guys. They bring in DeAndre Washington as a free agent. They still have Darwin Thompson. Don't rule out a potential LaShawn McCoy coming back just to be a veteran presence there to help some of these younger backs. But if Edwards-Helaire gets the work that he's capable of, what we saw from him at LSU last year, 55 receptions. Imagine that with Patrick Mahomes. Nearly 1,900 total yards. He could be an absolute monster. You go back to 2017, Kareem Hunt was a third-round pick in the NFL draft from Toledo. They had Spencer Ware, similar type of guy to Damien Williams, the guy they picked up off the scrap heap the year before. Very capable running back. Spencer Ware tore his ACL. What did Kareem Hunt do? He led the NFL in rushing. And so I think you see the same type of setup that could potentially happen. He's not the same type of guy as Kareem Hunt. Like Pete said, more of a comparison to a guy like Maurice Jones-Drew. But if you're getting Maurice Jones-Drew, and you knew that going in, you're drafting him in the first round of every fantasy league. I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year.
By the way, Jamie is the captain of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire fan club. He loves it. You know, Jerick McKinnon was once Jamie's guy. Now this guy has taken over. He likes the smaller back. One thing, enjoy your 5 years, Clyde, because in 5 years somebody will replace you too.
Hey, they'll take it. Patrick Mahomes is going to be there long after that. Jamie, is there any impact on Mahomes here, fantasy-wise?
No. I think, again, you can line up Pete Prisco in the backfield, and Mahomes' numbers will still be absolutely amazing. I do think it could be a little bit of time, though, before Edwards-Helaire is at his peak. You know, again, with the lack of offseason, you heard the running backs coach for the Chiefs a couple weeks ago in one of their Zoom interviews with the media say that he's not going to have to block very much. That's not something they ask of their running backs, but he's going to have to do it a little bit. And so having stepped into that role, you know, maybe they do lean on one of the veteran guys. Again, Thompson is the one that's been there. They also have Darrell Williams, who's coming back from an injury last year. Again, I would not rule out a veteran guy. Devontae Freeman's out there. Lamar Miller's out there. Those are capable veterans that could come in. But this is the opportunity for Edwards-Helaire to take over. Mahomes, though, with Tyreek Hill, with Travis Kelce, with whoever's running the ball in the backfield, he's still the #1 fantasy quarterback this year.
One of the things you noticed in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl is Mahomes got better at finding the back out of the backfield. As he became more comfortable, he didn't have to make all the big throws. He started throwing to the backs. I think with another year under his belt, throwing the ball to the running backs out of the backfield will even be better for him. I know there's a lot of weapons on that offense, but those guys who can catch the ball out of the backfield, and clearly this kid can, is going to be a factor in their passing game.
We have some updated fantasy football rankings to show you from Jamie Eisenberg. Jamie's constantly changing these from a PPR perspective. Jamie, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a rookie, is just outside the top 5.
And if Dalvin Cook was a holdout, he would have been in the top 5. Again, you're looking at what the potential of this offense is, what the potential of this player is, the commitment to him by taking him in the first round. We know the Chiefs probably could have traded back. Remember, he wasn't the guy that everyone was hyping up coming into this draft class. It was Jonathan Taylor. It was DeAndre Swift. Now, when you looked at Edwards-Helaire, you said, okay, he's going to end up in a good situation and maybe he could be very good. Well, he ended up in the perfect situation. So to go back to what I said at the beginning, holy bleep, the upside is amazing for what Edwards-Helaire could be playing with Patrick Mahomes, playing for Andy Reid in this offense. The sky is the limit. That rocket ship is pointing very, very high right now.
Jamie, take your fantasy hat off for just 1 second. Are you in agreement with Pete that this doesn't hurt Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs at all this season?
No, I think, you know, if you're going to talk about a loss, it's losing the offensive lineman. It's probably a bigger blow to what the Chiefs look like, you know, from an offensive standpoint. Even that's not a huge loss because they have capable enough guys on that unit to still be successful. Mahomes showed you last year, fighting through the ankle injury, fighting through the knee injury, dealing with those situations, coming back, like Pete said, he felt more comfortable. He was actually on pace last year, you know, fantasy NFL-wise. He was on pace those first 3 games to be better than he was in 2018 when he threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. So he's got the upside to be just amazing year in, year out. The parts will be interchangeable. Now, clearly, Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, if you lost one of those guys, that would be a little bit more problematic. But I agree with Pete. Unfortunately, running backs do not necessarily matter as much as they used to, and Edwards-Helaire might be better than Damien Williams, so this is not something that's going to hurt Mahomes at all.
Pete, these opt-outs are coming fast and furious. We're over a dozen pretty well-known players now. Are you worried that this is going to continue and perhaps maybe water down the league a little bit this season?
Yeah, I think, and if you look at most of the opt-outs, most of them have very good reasons. Now, we haven't heard why Damien Williams has opted out. Does he have a young child? We don't know. But if you go down this list, everybody had pretty much a legitimate reason for opting out. I mean, Michael Pierce had asthma. Dante Hightower just had a child. Patrick Chung, same thing. Marcus Cannon had cancer. So there are issues involved with most of them. Nate Solder had cancer and his son had cancer. So I think if you look at these situations, it's understandable. But again, there's always going to be guys that want to play. And there's one guy, you hate to say this, but one guy not playing will open the door for somebody else.
Yeah, it's an opportunity.
Right. And you see this all the time in the NFL. Guy gets hurt, kick him to the side, somebody else comes in, and he plays. That's just a part of the business, and teams have to be ready for it. And I think the way things are structured, they will be ready for it. So, yeah. Now, if a quarterback opts out, a star quarterback, then you have a major issue.
Of the names that we've seen so far opt out, which one is going to have the biggest impact, in your opinion?
Probably Marcus Cannon. I think you saw an offensive line last year that really struggled in New England. Dante Scarnecchia has retired. He's the best line coach maybe ever in the NFL. And so I think replacing Marcus Cannon at right tackle will be a tough chore for the Patriots.
And Jamie, outside of Damien Williams, which opt-out is going to have the biggest impact on fantasy this season? We did see a couple of marginal wide receivers opt out as well.
Yeah, Devin Funchess would be the one for me, just because we know the Packers did not do anything to help Aaron Rodgers. This was the one move that they made. So now you're putting a lot on Alan Lazard, who's a guy that they found off the scrap heap. Another guy that they brought in, Reggie Bedgelton, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, that they got from the CFL. They have Jay Sternberger, who's a second-year tight end. So you know Devontae Adams is going to be great, but who's going to help Aaron Rodgers and Adams in that passing game, aside from maybe the running backs out of the backfield? So without Funchess there as a veteran guy that was hopefully going to make Rodgers better, now you have a group, Marquez Valdez-Scantling thrown in as well, that really has to step up and perform at a high level.
All right, let's put a bow on Damien Williams here. In the end, when we look back on this day when Damien Williams opted out, what does it mean for the Kansas City Chiefs?
It means they lost a guy who was a big part of their team last year, but as far as football this year, not going to matter that much. You know, they drafted to replace him. He was ultimately going to replace him.
And Jamie loves the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to benefit from this, and we certainly wish Damien Williams the best, and anybody who's opting out, especially if it's for health reasons. Jamie Eisenberg, Pete Prisco, thank you so much. On a very busy day here, a month from the college football season, 6 weeks from the first NFL game. Fantasy Football Today is now live every day at noon Eastern on HQ. You can also find it in podcast form wherever you like to find your podcasts.